Hello there viewers, and welcome to another edition of Formula One Talk, and in this edition I will go over my thoughts and reviews of the Canadian Grand Prix. So let's get right on with it. Talking points for this particular Grand Prix, I thought Massa and Rosberg had a good tussle / battle at the start of the race. Very entertaining to see the two drivers go at it, especially when the DRS was enabled. They were just going left, passing like that really, and was going, it was a pretty good battle until Massa spun on lap 6, and from then on, Rosberg had the initiative on that bit. It was a very good first stint for Paul di Resta, even though ultimately at the end of the race he and Nico Hülkenberg failed to score, which was a little bit of a disappointment considering the qualifying and obviously the first stint in the race. Good strategy all round by most of the teams. I'll come back to that a little bit later. Lewis Hamilton passed Vettel in the pits. He seemed on it. Still having problems in the pits, McLaren, even though they changed the wheel nut that actually you use the tyre gun for. But all in all, very good race all round. Was a lot more entertaining than Monaco, put it that way. The DRS definitely worked, and speaking of DRS, we had our first DRS failure since the system was implemented last season. Michael Schumacher in the Mercedes had to retire because the DRS failed and wouldn't close after, obviously the DRS zone he was on at that specific lap. He had no chances of slowing the car down in time, as obviously he was going through the straights pretty damn quickly. But that's Schumacher's 5th retirement in 7 races. He's got to be asking the gods, he's paying for his sins in the 7 years he won the world title. But the problem with that is the fact that he's not getting the results he wants. He's qualifying relatively well. His worst position obviously since his comeback was obviously 2010, 2011, but this year his qualifying's got better because the car's got better. Mercedes do have a race winning car. Nico Rosberg proved that in China, so it's all a question of, will Schumacher eventually get the reliability that he needs to get a decent result? He's not been on the podium since coming back, and the car is actually hindering that particular result for him, because I think he's quite capable of getting a podium, if not a race win, if he gets more lucky. He's just unlucky at the moment. And speaking of DRS, the drivers are seriously considering asking the FIA to implement race rules for DRS in practice and quali sessions. Now that seems fair enough to me, because they're all saying, well, there's already too much to do in the cockpit anyway. Now, from a fan standpoint, there's nothing much wrong with that, just having the DRS going in the DRS sections. From a video game player standpoint, you're not going to break lap records anymore. But we'll see if the FIA decide to do that in the coming weeks. There didn't appear to be that much difference between the soft tyres, which were the prime tyres in Canada, and the super soft tyres, which were the option tyres in Canada. The Saubers were fantastic in their tyre management, and they have been, 2011, 2012, since obviously Pirelli came back to Formula One. So, some teams can manage their tyres and others can't. One person who couldn't manage his tyres this weekend was Jenson Button. disastrous weekend, horrible weekend for Jenson this weekend. He could not save a set of tyres for love nor money, and he couldn't do anything this weekend. He finished 16th in the race this weekend, and he's just not enjoying this season as he did last season. It seems as though Button's going to have one good season, one crap season, one good season, one crap season. You know, and that's what we're going to get with Jenson, especially this year. Hamilton will be McLaren's title challenger this year. Button might get another race win if he manages to sort out the tyres, but I can't see Button. Button's not going to be a title contender, and we're not even halfway through the season yet. Hispania had terrible brake problems all throughout the race weekend. Brakes were overheating, there had brake dust coming out of them. I'm pretty sure that's why Carther Cahan retired, but De La Rosa, who was running quite well in the race, he was beating both Marussias and he out-qualified them both as well. I think the new HQ for HRT is actually giving them some stability in terms of they've got a base, they can work from that base, and you know, I think within say 18 months, 2 years, they're going to score a point. They're not as quick as say the Toro Rossos or the Williams, but the stability seems to be there. They're going to be beating the Marussias. They are beating the Marussias, but they just need that little bit of reliability. I heard during commentary when I was watching the highlight package last night that they've only got 80 members of staff, you know, from top to bottom, and which basically makes them a baby team, you know. I mean, they're only in their third season, they're doing tremendously brilliant, but they're getting there. They've got a permanent HQ now in Madrid, and they're, you know, I think the improvements are beginning to show already. But they were unlucky not to finish the race, and you know, De La Rosa's experience is certainly helping. Sergio Perez towards the end of the race, obviously with his lower tyre degradation for him and obviously Kamui Kobayashi in the Sauber. In the Sauber pair of cars, you know, they had very good tyre deg, which meant they were able to go further in the race in their first stint. They only stopped once apiece, and you know, he made 2 passes in 2 laps with the help of the DRS zone towards the end of the race, coming into the 3rd sector, and that's obviously where the DRS is, the long straight, and he made 2 passes in 2 laps, gained 2 positions, and that's why I'll go over the race results and championship standings at the end of the video, but that's why he finished 3rd. Red Bull and Ferrari towards the end of the race saw Lewis Hamilton come in for his 2nd stop, and they decided to keep both of them out in their respective teams. Alonso Vettel at the front of the field, and Lewis Hamilton was catching them at a rate of knots. He was easily the fastest car on the track, you know, give or take a couple of tenths, and Sergio Perez was trading fastest lap times with Lewis. That was how good Perez and Kobayashi were yesterday, and you know, they tried to keep them out as long as possible, tried to do a 1 stop like the Saubers, but it didn't quite work. Vettel had to come in for a 2nd stop. Alonso was kept out by Ferrari, and Vettel used the newer rubber on his tyres to eventually pass him and beat him in the race in terms of race position. But you know, it was Lewis Hamilton's race. He was on it from basically after his first pit stop. He passed Vettel in the stops, and you know, he was the guy to beat this weekend. And you know, Hamilton became the 7th different winner in 7 different Grand Prix this season. Who is going to win this title? I mean, I've got to say, my pick for the championship, Kimi Raikkonen, is, you know, falling back a bit. You know, we're still only in race 7, you know. So there's plenty of races still to go. No one's obviously mathematically impossible of winning the championship, apart from the 3 newer teams and a couple of other teams as well. But in terms of who can win the championship, it's an amazing season. I've never seen a season like this in Formula 1, and I've been watching it, you know, as a die-hard fan for a good 15-20 years now. So, you know, this is an incredible season. However, I do actually think we're going to see our first second race win of the season coming up in the next race. But as for who's going to win the championship, I ain't got the foggiest idea now. You know, Raikkonen could slowly but surely. What we need for 8th different winner in 8 races is a Lotus victory in the next Grand Prix. And the way both of the drivers are driving, especially Romain Grosjean of France, he is probably going to be the next winner, or Michael Schumacher for that instance. We are going to, I hope one of those 2 wins the next race, to be honest with you. It'll be brilliant. 8 different winners in 8 different Grand Prix. That, I mean, 7's a record by itself, but can you imagine 8, possibly 9? It could happen the way this season's going. But anyway, on with the race results. And first was Hamilton. As I say, great victory for Lewis. He said he needed it, and I think he did. Contrasting styles and, you know, fortunes to Jenson in the other McLaren. You know, one was up, one was down, and Jenson is in a rut at the moment. He needs a decent result. A podium or a high points finish would sort Jenson out. He's not scored in the last 3 races, and, you know, it's quite frankly beginning to show. Romain Grosjean second in the Lotus. Brilliant strategy. Again, the Lotus coming up after it's burnt off its fuel. It doesn't seem to like heavy fuel. Excuse me. It doesn't seem to like heavy fuel situations, but as soon as it's drunk enough fuel, that Lotus is quick. Sergio Perez third with the magnificent tyre management. As I said, 1 stop. Him and Kobayashi, but different fortunes somewhat. Sebastian Vettel 4th. He would have been 5th had he come in for tyres earlier, or stayed out soon, excuse me. But Vettel, you know, I thought was going to win this race after the start, the first stint he had. He was just doing one of his 2011 pullaways, and thank God it didn't come through. Fernando Alonso 5th. Because of the tyre gamble, I actually think he would have probably come 4th if he had come in the pits, so not really too much of a loss. Only just finished ahead of Nico Rosberg in 6th place, thanks to staying out. Mark Webber 7th. My prediction for the race. You can't do much, can you? Kimi Raikkonen 8th, didn't have the best of races. Again, the Lotus doesn't like heavy fuel loads, obviously, but he couldn't, a bit like Jenson Button, couldn't quite get the tyre protection that he wanted. Kobayashi in 9th. You know, brilliant tyre management again by the Sauber. The Sauber treats its tyres very, very well indeed. And Felipe Massa in 10th. I reckon Felipe might have got 6th, might have even challenged for a podium spot if he continued the way he was going in the first 5 laps. On with the championship standings, we have a new championship leader in Lewis Hamilton with 88, Fernando Alonso with 86, Vettel with 85. I mean, 3 points separate the top 3. Brilliant stuff, brilliant stuff. However, not too far behind with 79 in 4th. Nico Rosberg 5th with 67. Raikkonen with 55. Grosjean with 53. Button down to 8th now, having not scored for 3 races with 45. Sergio Perez catching him on 37. And Maldonado obviously not scoring again with 29. Red Bull top of the constructors with 164. McLaren with 133. Lotus with 108. Ferrari 4th with 97, Mercedes 69 in 5th, Sauber the rate they're going, they're going to catch Mercedes. They're on 58, Williams with 44, Force India 28, and Toro Rosso, the only other constructor to score in ninth place, with 6 points. So basically, points to draw up from this weekend's Grand Prix. Jenson Button needs to pull his socks up. McLaren need to give, I wouldn't say McLaren need to give him a race-winning car. He needs to find where he was last year and obviously in 2009. As I've said in previous videos, when things go right for Jenson, no one can beat him. When things go wrong for him, they go wrong. 16th place in a McLaren. That's not good enough, quite frankly. This time last year, Jenson was challenging for the championship. He's not going to do that this year. Felipe Massa, apart from a spin, had a pretty good race weekend. The argument for keeping him and the argument for getting rid of him, Perez is, in terms of future Ferrari driver, Sergio Perez is that guy. There's no doubt about it. But Sauber are doing relatively well at the moment. They're scoring points. Perez at least 2 podiums this year so far. Brilliant tyre management, as I keep saying, by the Saubers. Just a fantastic race for them. As I say, disappointment for Force India not to get any points, considering the first stint on the quali sessions for both cars. Lewis Hamilton, just no one could beat him this weekend. He was that good. He likes Canada anyway. 2 race wins. His first race victory in 07 came at Canada. So, we got a close championship. It's the closest championship for years. And, are we going to get a different winner in the next race? Are we not going to get a different winner? Are we going to get our first 2-time winner of the season? So, again, my predictions are not coming in at all. I'm not doing very well with my predictions, but this Grand Prix a heck of a lot better than Monaco. It had to be, basically, not because of the fact that it was a better track for racing on, but it's just you got passing, and that's what motor racing's all about. It's not staying in a line processional wise, but that's what we get at Monaco. So I thank you for watching this edition of F1 Talk, and I'll see you next time.